Hey everybody, habari gani? How are you all? How y'all doing? I wanted to create another video because I wanted to talk about something about letting go of stuff. So I really want to let go of all the shit that I'm holding on to this year, and all the stuff that I've been holding on to. And I'm just tired. Like, I'm ready to let this shit go. Like, especially when it comes to relationships and stuff, because I know with us women talking about princess culture, it's my job now to actually live more in the truth and live more genuinely and authentically, and our relationships are a huge part of our lives. So I really want to get this stuff off my chest and talk about my personal experience and the things that I've learned, because I feel like it might, people might resonate with it. And if you resonate with it, you won't feel alone. A lot of us women, we are ashamed to we're ashamed to tell our story in front of everybody, because obviously, in our heart of hearts, we want a loving relationship. But and I'm not a relationship expert, so I'm not really trying to give advice or nothing like this. I'm just really doing this for my own self, and to cleanse myself of all the stuff that I've been, holding on to, because I haven't had the best relationships. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about, celibacy, sex, and my personal experience in relationships. And just so you guys know, this is not for children. This is not a page for children. And I may as well go on the record to say that, this whole entire page is not suitable for children. So I can imagine somebody and their child, watching my videos, but this is not for children, because I'm going to be talking about sex and stuff. So, get comfortable. This is about to be a little girl talk shit, because I got some shit that I want to say. Like, I really, I'm going to talk about my relationship. I've had 3 relationships, like 3 sex partners, and I've always wanted a wholesome, relationship. And at the beginning, I thought I was getting that. So let me just go ahead and tell y'all. So I'm about to start this story. So make sure you sit down, get comfortable, make yourself comfortable, because I'm about to tell you my story. And just for the record, I don't give a fuck if you judge me, because I actually am for judgment. You can judge me if you want to, and it's okay to judge people. I used to say, yo, we can't judge each other, but no, we actually can judge each other. I feel like there's nothing wrong with judging someone, because you have to make protective judgments for yourself, and who am I to ruin someone else's protection? And so basically that's it. So I don't give a fuck if people judge me. I really have thought long and hard about this, about putting my little business out there. But we as black women, we know each other's business. We know we do some stupid ass shit, like, and I'm just here to tell a little bit of my story. So basically, it started like in 2005. For one, throughout grade school, I've never had a boyfriend. I've never boys weren't really attracted to me, because I didn't have no swag. I was like really kind of empty on the inside. Like, I didn't have no my personality wasn't really fully developed. And I didn't have a liveliness in me, back then, growing up into grade school, into high school. I didn't even know the slang. I didn't even know, sex slangs and stuff like that. Like, I was really, kept to myself. And I don't talk about, I don't talk a lot to people. I only had a few people. I hung out with the quiet group. There were the jocks, the nerds, and the popular kids, the popular motherfucking people. And one time I said kids in front of somebody. She said, "Did she just say kids?" And I was like, I don't, I don't talk to nobody like that. And I heard myself say that out loud, I was like, oh shit. But I don't talk to many people. I don't talk to a lot of people. And that kind of brought it to my awareness how little I talk to other people, because first of all, the stuff that I was going through growing up in my house, and dealing with all that stuff. So I'm gonna try to make this a long story short. So basically, out of high school in 2005, I was working at a retail store, fashion retail, and it was through a ROP program, regional occupation program for high school students. And so basically, when I finished the program, I got hired, and there were some new people who got hired there, and that's where I met my first boyfriend, my first ex. And he was a nice guy. And I found out that we were 4 months apart. My birthday's in August, his is December, on the same day, and we were exactly 4 months apart. And because his birthday was in December, he was a grade younger than me. So he was finishing high school, and I was already finished with high school, going into my first semester into college. So I told him, like, you're too young for me. I naturally like older men, and I used to tell myself all the time, and I still stick to that. I still stuck to it. I didn't, physically stick to it then, but that's the way I felt. Like, I like older dudes. Like, I like, older men. And I told him, you're too young for me. And he was like, he tried to woo me and persuade me, and he kept pursuing me. So I just finally gave in, but it took a while, because I really I don't care if it was 4 months younger, and something told me not to do that. There was everything, like, I got, in my head, I was just telling myself, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. But he had a charming face, nice. He was cute, and I was like, you know what, I don't do younger guys. Like, we're 4 months apart, but he was a nice person, honestly. So I just gave it a chance. And he was like, when we got into the relationship, he was like, I know I'm gonna be with you for like 4 or 5 years. So I'm gonna talk about the extension of that, because we were kind of in a situationship for over 10 years. And in that situation, we were actually literally together for like for about 9 months. It wasn't even a year. Like, we were together for about 9 months. And we had a really good, loving relationship. He was a very caring person. But along the lines, I didn't have a lot of swag. I wasn't as refined in personality as I've become, just in recent years, especially when I got my first apartment. Because when I got my first apartment, which was like in 2010, that's when I really got a chance to be free and let myself go, and experiment with having privacy, because I grew up in a cooped up house. And and I should have been on my mission. Back then, when I had all of my supplies and everything I needed. And I feel like that's how I got this scar right here, because to remind me that I do have, it's like a weird story, but this was a pimple at first, and when I saw it, I was like, fuck, I know I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. And even my aunt G, who's in she was born and raised in Compton, and her mom passed at when she was 16. So she's very business oriented and very responsible, so responsible in the truth that it would scare people, like, and I wasn't ready for that, but she taught me a lot. And she was like, what have you been doing all this time? Because I had an assignment when I was sewing some things for a lady that she hooked me up with, and I completed the job. Wasn't what I wanted it to be, but I did complete it. And she was like, we're counting on you. What have you been doing? And I wanted to say smoking weed, like, like I wanted to say, I was really in a relaxation mode, like getting my head out of being so cooped up, and so you know I was really tense coming out of my situation growing up at home. Like, I had a tense personality. I was tense, you know. I used to, bite my teeth and, not even realizing I had to practice relaxing. And, the moment I started, practicing, with herbal medicine, my whole face changed, my whole demeanor changed. I became more relaxed, and it was a healing experience for me, in spite of, what people think about marijuana. But anyway, so, in that situation when we broke up, he said, he was actually talking to this girl on MySpace, and um he was like, he told me, he was like, I want to start talking to other people and stuff. And, this was around prom season, so he was getting ready to go to prom. And I said, I asked my aunt for some advice, not my Aunt G, it was another aunt. And I asked her, my dude, he's my boyfriend, he's thinking about, seeing other people and stuff, like, and he also said that he wanted to go to prom, with another girl, and it was kind of heartbreaking to me, but he let it be known to me, I'm not gonna leave you. And I was a virgin at that time, so he felt really bad about, leaving me, for another girl, and he made it be known, like, I'm not gonna leave you or abandon you, or anything like that. And but I do kind of want to see other people and stuff. So I told my aunt, I was like, what do you think I should do? She's telling me that he wants to go see other people, and I feel like I should let him. And she was like, don't let him. My aunt said, don't let him go with no other girl to prom. And that was her advice to me. So I took that advice into consideration, and I was like, this is a man. I can't control him. He's telling me what he wants. It would be wrong of me to keep him hostage, and I don't want to keep anybody hostage. I don't want to be that kind of girlfriend or wife or woman that, tell a man what he can't do, especially when he's telling me what he wants. So I told him, yeah, I'm okay with it. Whatever you want to do, that's fine. You know, you can, you can go. You can go. I still loved him, but it hurt for me to watch him walk away. But I said, you can go. It's okay. And I do appreciate you for even telling me instead of cheating. So and he's always kind of kept it 100 with me, and I'm still gonna explain that later because it gets kind of crazy. But that situation taught me that you can't control a man. You shouldn't want to, and that taught me how to really listen to man. Despite the advice my aunt gave me, I couldn't just tell him. It felt wrong to tell him, you can't do that. You can't, you're not allowed to do that. So I let him go. And he got into a relationship with that girl, and he got into a relationship with her, and he was still trying to bring me along to events and invite me to his house and stuff, and before that, before he got into the relationship, I was going over his house, and I had a great relationship with his mom and sisters, and we're talking about soul ties too. This is the man that, this is a man who has a father who has seven different children, daughters, in particular, by other women. So as I want to tell you the story, he had children by other women. I know it's a shocker. I'll take that L, but it is what it is, and I'm ready to tell my story and let it go, because I'm not going to keep holding on to this. And I've butchered that relationship, but it just feels good to get it out of your system and talk about it. And I'm grateful for the friends that I did have at the time to talk about it. And because sometimes you need somebody on the outside telling you, what's going on. And it's good to, I never had that kind of anger towards him, because the way I look at it, I see him like, if he were to make a mistake or something, he obviously, in that relationship that he was in, he was trying to hold me, trying to hold on to me in the relationship. And I didn't like the way that felt, because I didn't want to share a man with someone else at the time. And I just didn't want to be in a relationship without any set intentions or set, boundaries. I don't really get jealous of women, but the way that was being done, I didn't really like it, and I don't advocate for being a side chick or anything like that. So, his relationship started to decline with that girl, but I know that it was because he was having me around. He denied it, and in his mind, I can't speak for him, but so I can't really say that he denied it, but in his mind, it wasn't, our situationship wasn't the cause of that. So once that got into decline, he kind of came back to me, and I let him in. We were having sex, and after a while, I was like, you know what? This is when 2007, we had a conversation. I was like, I don't like the way this is going. I think I should really just let you go, because it doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel right, and it doesn't, I just don't like it, because at any point you can get up and be with another woman, and, I'll have nothing to show for it. We don't, I don't like having to be secretive, because whatever you have going on, you don't want he didn't want people to really know that, he didn't want people to know that I was, that I was with him while he was still kind of having ties with this other girl, which is understandable from a man's point of view, but, I didn't enjoy it. So, and he was like, we young, let's just have fun. He was on that tip, I really like you. He tried to make sense of it to me, because, it would be beneficial if we could, have sex with each other, and we know each other, so we won't have to be doing stuff with everybody else. And, and I'm not, as far as promiscuity, I can't jump from guy to guy to guy to guy to guy, and, have summer flings, and, have sex with people in the club, and never see them again. Like, I've heard stories, like, I can't do that, it was too much. Like, so I was like, okay, let's just go ahead and deal with it. And that's another thing that us women do. We try to hold on to a man. It may not be like my situation, but we do try to hold on to him, because he's a man, so at least you got something, but it's so many lessons in this, like, as us women in relationships, the stupid shit that we do. We can tell each other, talk to each other, and really heal from this, because we don't have to keep putting up with this shit. We don't, we're not supposed to put up with it, and we know it. But, because of the comfort that we've gotten used to in society, and the lack of family and community input, we just put up with it. So out of that relationship, he had a baby, and when he told me, I was heartbroken, I was angry, I was pissed, I was mad, I was furious. But in that moment of him telling me, and throughout, I never yelled at him, I never screamed at him. I sat back and listened. I just sat back and listened, because although he disappointed me, I still loved him. And I was like, you know what, this is a person who, no child is a mistake. I'm not saying that, but, he did something that, in that context, he wasn't supposed to be doing. Honestly, he could do whatever he want to do because of the situation, but it's the context that I'm talking about. As far as his loyalty to me, and that's what makes it a situationship, because you can't be loyal to someone and not and not fortify that loyalty. So he made it clear to me that he didn't want a relationship, because he wanted to live out his young years and have fun and stuff. And I decided to go for it. I was up for the ride, and I made fun of it the best I could. I had some fun, but at the end of the day, I have to deal with not having somebody by my side, and all that stuff. So after that, they had their little relationship, and I kind of, stepped back a little bit, and I met someone. I was serving as a, what do you call it? A guardian. I was serving as a guardian for my younger brother when he was in a USC program. So the person that I met, he was a facilitator for youth at USC. He was also a financial aid advisor and a teacher. He was a teacher at a local college. So, and I like men who are empowered. I like teachers. Like, I like men who have some kind of sense of power to them, and the guy that I was with, my first ex, he had a strong sense of being. He had a strong sense of being who he was too. Nobody could tell him that he was wrong. He had a very strong personality, and that's what I was attracted to. But this guy that I met, the facilitator, he, we kind of excuse me, we kind of hooked up, and we talked, we chatted, and we got into a relationship. He had a nice vibe. I liked his sense of fashion. I didn't really vibe with him per se, but I knew that I had to get out of that situationship that I was in. And I thought maybe that if I get into another relationship, and he always, my first ex always would encourage me to go and be happy with someone else. And that's another dynamic, like, but he knew that he kind of wanted to keep me, because what was happening now was that, 3 months in into 6 months in, my first ex found out that, I was in a relationship with this dude, and he used to live in Long Beach. So I would go out there by the beach, and I was always happy to go over a man's house. Like, honestly, the shit that I grew up in, I'm grateful, but, I don't care about what society says about, men living with their moms and stuff like that. My first ex, he did live with his mom. He was still in high school, like, But this one, he was 23, 22, 21. So I was 19 going on 20, and he was 23. So, I kind of like that dynamic, and it was great. It was fun for a while, but our personality, I just didn't love him. Like, our personalities didn't carry on for long, together, and I just decided to leave. But, before that, my first ex was out there following me to Long Beach, and I told him my whereabouts and stuff because we had kind of had a bond. He kind of, he did care about me. He did care about me, but, I would always tell him throughout the years up till, the recent years, just because you love me and care about me and want to do everything that you do to provide for me, to prove to me how much you care about me, that doesn't excuse you from giving me your word, as far as a relationship goes. And he just couldn't, he always tried to deny that, but in recent years he's just come to accept it. And I have a feeling that he knew it all along, but he started telling me, okay, I accept that. But so that was my second relationship. That was, all of that stuff was too much for me. I did have sex with him. That was my second, boyfriend. And it just didn't, I just didn't love him. It didn't connect. It didn't, and it was moving too fast for me. This getting into a relationship with people and having sex with them, and I shouldn't have, but it was just the culture. It's the culture sometimes that just makes it seems like it's okay to be doing this stuff. And, we have sex early on into relationships so fast. And, I did take my comfortable time. I got comfortable with him, but when I like somebody, and I didn't really like him like that, I liked the fact that, I liked his position and, his swag and energy, but, our birthday signs didn't really match like that. I didn't like him like that. I didn't love him. It wasn't really. There was a semi spark, but it wasn't a full spark. Like I didn't love him. So yeah. And after that, I let my ex back in because he kept wanting to be with me, and I had my apartment at that time, and he would always find comfort in being with me because he knew that he could tell me anything, especially the way I handled that last pregnancy that he told me about. After that, he knew that he could tell me anything. And I like to keep a comfortable house. Even my friends who come over, they say it's so zenful and peaceful, and people fall asleep at my house, and I don't have that propagandic TV running all day. And I like to keep plants around. I don't like dirty little corners. Like, I like having a peaceful home. And so he would always come over after work. We were having an unproductive relationship, if you know what I mean. So if you in the womb school, you know what an unproductive relationship is. Fucking, having sex and eating wings and watching TV. Like, we was playing house, and it wasn't productive. And I knew what I wanted. And I told him this back in 2005. What are your long-term goals and short-term goals? Like, let's get our shit together. And he would be like, your long-term goals and your short-term goals. Look at how you sound. I was like, what's wrong with that? Like, I was already on nation building, but he wasn't ready for that. And so one night he told me, and this is like a few years on, I think in 2012, 2011 or 12 or something like that. He told me, and I thought he was gonna tell me that he wanted to be with me, but he told me that he was thinking about seeing another girl, somebody else. I know this shit sounds surprising to y'all. Judge me if you want, but I'm in control of my situation. Like, I've come to terms with all that stuff, and I've dealt with myself. So I'm really at a place of peace right now. So I don't need anybody to tell me, I had one homegirl that I had to leave alone. She was like, oh, well, that's why you, but I'm at peace though. And her ass is, I don't need any advice from people unless they are whole and complete in a relationship. I'm just telling you this situation so that other women can get it out of their system and stop having these negative circles of relationships that we have. I seen a post one time. A lot of women are in relationships for 10 and 15 years and stuff. I know I'm not the only one. So this is why I'm telling this story, because as we represent each other as Princess of Africa, we have to start telling the truth. And the truth might be ugly sometimes. And I really don't care what people think. I'm just caring about myself, taking self-care within myself to tell my story and let my light shine throughout the good and the bad in my life. And I really learned a lot. I've become a better person. I've transmuted that into a situation that will help me out as far as understanding men and cooperating with men, and setting my own boundaries too, and having a sense of worth, because all that ties into this. So when I got into my third relationship, it was a guy from high school, and I vowed never to date guys from high school. But this guy was a guy from high school, and when I was living in downtown, he was working at a grocery store that I was going to. So he was kind of fond of me, and we talked for a while and stuff, and my ex was my first ex. We were in our little situationship, but when he told me that night that he wanted to date another girl, I was like, I was heartbroken, but I was like, okay, that's okay, and I can't stop you from doing what you want to do. But at that point, and throughout the years, I started to really tell him how I felt, about everything, and I let those words get to his soul, and I was grateful that he was willing to sit down and listen, and to be honest, you're not gonna believe it, but he really did feel bad, and he was very apologetic, and in spite of his actions, it's kind of that's why it's a situationship, because he really did go above and beyond to help me with whatever I needed, as far as bills, as far as helping taking care of me, when I had a 3-hour job, and having the support of him and his family, and all that stuff. He really did do a lot to help me, to his, on behalf of him. He's not a bad person. It's just that as black people, we do bad habits as far as relationships go. So what was I saying? So back into this this other girl that he started to date. She was a sassy, badass bitch, and she was younger. She was like a year younger than him, and I think she was 2 years younger than him. But he liked that sass and all that stuff, and and I was kind of losing my personality in the process. My style actually kind of declined a little bit, because I know I wasn't living in the truth. I know that shit, I was thinking about that every single day. My relationship status in my life, I was thinking about that every day, like every day. And and it was a terrible feeling. It was a terrible feeling. And I had to deal with myself. I had to deal with myself, and why I was upset at myself for making these decisions. because I knew what I wanted. I knew what I wanted, but I was sitting here not giving it to myself. And so he had a baby with that girl too. Yes, he did. He had a baby with that girl too. And at this time, everybody was getting popping on Facebook, and people saw my business. My family was seeing my business. It was really embarrassing and humiliating for me, especially when you're a woman and you have a man who's having a child by another woman. And but I still dealt with that. And I still didn't lash on him, because he was very frustrated, because in the time he was kind of between me and her. But I would tell him how wrong this is. And I was like, and she sensed that I was the other woman. So I would tell him, they were having a bad relationship because of that. And I would tell him, if you don't like this so much, why do you make these decisions? And he would always kind of stray away from the situation, and the questions that I would ask him. And she was really, she became very attitude-ish towards him, just like the other one did. And I would tell him, if you don't like this, you have to stop lying to women. You have to stop, you can't just, you have to start making arrangements to you living a more truthful life, whatever it is. And I was like, even if you don't want to be with me, I want you to be happy. I want you to be happy, and I want you to, honestly, at the time, it would break my heart, because I really did love this guy. But I was like, I would still rather him be happy than for him to be unhappy with me. So, yeah, he had that child, and he still knew that he could come to me and talk to me about anything. And I was kind of, still heartbroken. But, I really just, I couldn't blame him, because it was my choice. So I couldn't blame him for the shit. It was my choice. So I dealt with myself, and I healed through dealing with myself. It was ugly back then. I really had to deal with myself, because I didn't like what I was becoming. And I know that's not who I am. But when you start to do things, people will have it that that's who you are, like a side chick and all that stuff. And I'm not into that kind of culture. I'm not into sleeping around with guys like that. But he really encouraged me to go with this guy, my third ex. And that relationship, that was the one from high school. So we kind of hit it off. And I would go over his house and stuff, and hang out and stuff. And I found out that he was a little bit of an alcoholic. And I found out that later on, I found out that his mother and father passed away 3 and 6 years ago. And he was kind of he wasn't like a severe alcoholic, but he was getting there. Like, at first when we were dating, my third ex, at first when we were dating, how your all of your activities include going out to eat and stuff. And even if we're at his house, it includes like eating and drinking and having fun and stuff like that. He would have vodka with everything that he drank. So in the first 2 dates, 3 dates, 4 dates, I was like, okay, yeah, give me some vodka and cranberry, or make me a drink and this and that, being all cute and having fun with him. And then I tell everybody that's like, after a month, I found myself still being drunk. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like, am I still hungover? I'm like, it's been a month. Like, I mean, I would clear up, day after day and week after week. But after a while, all that liquor started to wear on me. So I said, no, that's what it is. He drinks too much, so let me drink Water. Let me go back to my water. So, when we start hanging out, I just stick to water because I didn't like that feeling, drinking. And, he would drink a lot and he would talk about all of his problems, which weren't really problems. He was working a full-time shift, but he was working 39 hours and complaining that other people were getting 40 hours. 40 hours. And excuse me. He was getting 40 hours. So my battery's about to die, so I have to wrap this up. So he was complaining and all that stuff. So it was too much complaints for me. I think his birthday was in October or November too, and our energies didn't really match. And I didn't love him either. I just did that because my first ex encouraged me to go out and be happy and, go date this guy. I was telling him about this guy. He was like, go date, go out and date, because stuff that I've been doing is wrong. And, I do want you to be happy. So I went out with him and, I was my third sex partner too. And, that didn't last for long because of my, it just didn't last for long. Like I wasn't in love with him. I can't really enjoy sex if I'm not in love with the person, or if I don't like the person to a certain degree. Like me and my first ex, we had great sex. I actually thought we were going to get married, but my ancestors didn't have that in store for me, and I kind of felt that at the beginning too. But so after that, I broke up with him, and I was telling my ex about it. I was telling his mom about it too. I had a very close relationship with my first ex's mom, and she loved me, and I could tell her anything. And later on, my first ex told me what his mom said. She was like, I thought Lavetta knew better than that. She not supposed to be going out, getting into other people's bed. I was like, I do know better than that. Like, I didn't want to do that shit. Like, and at that point I realized, what, I have to make this decision for myself. Like, if I don't want to have sex with anybody, I don't have to, because it's too big of a risk having sex with people. For me, like, it's too big of a risk. And as much as I like somebody, like, if I do like somebody, as much as I like somebody, I'm still kind of shy. Like, I gotta get used to being next to their body, and but that's the fun part. But I'm still shy. Like, I just couldn't keep doing it. So I'm celibate as of now, and I really severed ties with him, like, and throughout 2015 through 2017 with my first ex. It's been a series of breakups and getting back together. It's like when you're getting out of an abusive relationship, you break up, and you get back together somehow. Like, I kept trying to cut all ties with him, and he kept saying, like, I need you and this and that, and I can't let you go, and I need you in my life, and this, and it didn't work out after a while. It didn't work out. Like, I couldn't keep putting myself in that situation. I was holding a lot of anger. I didn't lash out on him, but I did an expressive regimen for myself to let this anger go that I was holding, because I stepped outside of my nature and I wanted him to step outside of his, and he didn't. I stepped outside of having a wholesome relationship and not a situationship. I stepped out of I went to have a situationship for him, but he wouldn't have a relationship for me. So I was upset about that. I was angry about that, but You know, I had to deal with myself. And I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of the way I handled it, because I know a lot of women would have broke some tires in my situation. Like my shit, a lot of women would be on Facebook right now making those fucking memes and posts about niggas ain't shit. All that shit that some people be doing, I would be that woman, you know, but I didn't want to allow myself to reduce myself to the same reaction that society teaches us to have as women, especially as black women in media and stuff, like breaking tires. And you know, women in general do that shit, but I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to become bitter, you know, and I felt no need to become bitter. This is just a human being who didn't know what he was doing, who made a mistake, and so was I. I had to give myself grace and mercy. Like, I'm a human being and didn't know what I was doing, in spite of you know, people who told me otherwise and warned me. You know, I still went on with my decision because I loved him. But you know, I've decided to pay the consequences of my actions. And you know, my life is actually working out, so I'm not really worried about it, you know. But the reason I'm telling this story is so that we can really get this shit off our chest and live a more freer life, because it's a full moon going on, and I'm not gonna take this shit into 2020 with me. I'm leaving this shit here in 2019 and where it needs to be. I'm not taking this shit in with me. But you know, I love being in a relationship. I'm really like old school. Like, you know, I like being in a relationship, and I don't want to do anything else other than that. You know, they make it seem silly for women to want a relationship in the media, but I'm glad I didn't go further than that. I'm glad I didn't, because I couldn't even allow myself to go further than all those relationships, because it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel right. It didn't resonate with me. I didn't like it, and I couldn't let myself continue on like that, you know. And the way I like my relationships to be, like, you know, that's why we were together for so long, because I like, you know, I like supporting my man and helping my man and pleasing my man. Like, you know, we had good sex, but you know, I don't want to put my business out there, but you know, I ain't gonna toot my own horn, but you know, I like pleasing my own man. Like, I really do love black men. Like, I do. I love black men. I love the way they walk. I love their shoulders. I love their skin. I love their strength. I like pleasing them. Like, you know, I like sucking dick. I like the way dick feel. Like, I do. Like, I don't know about y'all, but I like the way dick feel. I couldn't be gay. I couldn't. It ain't nothing towards, you know, gay women or gay men. I have some friends who are gay, and you know, people say that stuff, but you know, it is a badge of honor to have people of diverse people you be friends with. Like, but I like the shit. Like, my man will always have the privilege of you know, having me to himself. And you know, I have to reserve that though. You know, we have to reserve that. When we go out and have sex with a whole bunch of other people, we're dealing with so many different energies. That's why I'm on my herbal shit right now. I told you earlier about these herbs that help with gonorrhea, herpes, syphilis, fever, toxic metal detox, all that stuff. A lot of these herbs from House of Imhotep are detoxing herbs, and they do have stuff for like sex and stuff. And I ain't never had shit or anything like that. I never have, but it's good for us to tell each other about this stuff, because I actually knew a girl who had herpes, and I had to tell her about these products, because you know, we think that we can't heal from it. And I think herpes is irreversible, they say, but every disease is reversible, you know, and we need to know this shit. But other than that, you know, I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about you know, my nature and tradition, you know, because in 2017, 16, 17, and 18, I had this 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 craving to just go back to tradition. I had this craving to run back to tradition and being traditional and being a woman and conducting my relationship as such. I couldn't do that anymore. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do that. But I hope y'all got something out of this. Like, you don't have to be bitter if you have a undesirable relationship that you're dealing with. You don't have to accept shit that you don't want. We need to stop having sex with these niggas and expecting to get a relationship afterwards. Like, that shit is, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. And I'm not even trying to give relationship advice because I'm not in one, but I do advocate for some soul seeking, especially as women, especially when we're in these fucked up stupid relationships that we choose. It's because that we know what we really want. We know what we really want, but we keep choosing otherwise, and we have to be aware that it's our choice. We have to be aware that it's our choice. And we also have to be aware of not being upset with ourselves. Deal with yourself for the time that you have to deal with, but don't punish yourself because you just made a mistake. This is a system that's training us to be like this. This is indoctrination and white supremacy and the effects of slavery and bad relationships that we've had in the black community, created by all sorts of problems, by drugs and abuse and breaking up families and stuff. We dealing with all this stuff in our wombs, and it's time to heal that shit going into 2020. So I really appreciate you for listening. Thank you for all your love and support, and really thank you for listening, because this shit isn't easy to tell, but when it's your own situation, you have to fear judgment and all that shit. But I'm going into 2020 pretty fearless. I don't give a fuck if people do look at me crazy. I'm a grown, I don't like saying I'm a grown ass woman because I am one, but I have to make decisions in my life for myself and learn my own lessons. And there's a reason behind all of this. But if you're willing to work it out, you can if you're willing to face yourself, you can get past all this shit and make it into something better. So I want to make this into a message so that women who are in fucked up relationships, I know we in some fucked up relationships now, and I don't judge you for it. We listen to each other as women. We come to each other to talk and all that stuff. So let's use that to get out of this fuck shit and start, getting what we really want in 2020, which is those marriage posts, from those games that I be seeing y'all post about, this is what my life is gonna be in 2020, a ring, a marriage, and all this other stuff that we be talking about, but we still doing some fuck shit. I'm over that shit for myself, and I hope you get over it for yourself too. And thank you for watching. To all my princesses out there, y'all are so sweet. I appreciate you for listening, and really thank you for listening to this message. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Kwaheri.